This week, we review the summer movie season and give you our thoughts on its biggest highs and lows. So pop some corn, grab a soda, and take a seat, because you're now listening to The Casual Cinema. Cinema, 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 cinema. Hi everybody, welcome back to The Casual Cinema. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Nathan. And I know it's been a while, but this week we will be talking about the summer movie box office. Now, by summer, we're of course talking about US summer, not Australian summer, so don't be confused here. Obviously, it's winter here, not summer. But we're just going to be looking at the films we didn't get the chance to review, and there was a lot of them. Some that I saw, some that Nathan saw, just a lot of movies that neither of us got the chance to actually come here to this podcast and talk about. And we want to talk about them because there's some big ones in here. Like, both of us have lists, and there's some that, like Toy Story and Lion King, for example, that we just didn't get the chance to even mention. So obviously we definitely wanted the chance to bring those up. So the first movie on our list is something that actually both of us saw, but neither of us, surprise, surprise, got to talk about. So Nathan, do you mind kicking us off with that little film?
Hello, here I am, back at it. Alright, yep, our first film on our list is Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Yep, that's right. Alright, now, it was a pretty long time ago, so I don't really remember the movie, but I'm pretty sure I enjoyed it.
I was about to say, do we remember anything about this movie? I remember, from my experience, I remember how silly it kind of got at the end of it, but overall I thought it was alright.
Yeah, it was predictable, I think.
Yeah. I mean, of course, for people who have not yet seen this film, I don't even know if I can get into spoilers because I just don't even remember character names, but essentially...
Ryan Reynolds is Pikachu, but it's pretty obvious that it's the main character's dad from the get-go. I don't know, it took me like 10 seconds to work out. I feel like it was
pretty much.
It was obvious. It's for the kids.
Basically,
it's a
kids' and basically the main character is trying to figure out what happened to his dad. That's really it. His dad's dead or presumed dead, and he's trying to figure out what happened to him, and that's basically the film. He finds Pikachu, and they go off on this little adventure through Rhyme City. I was about to say Tokyo, but I'm like, no, it's Rhyme City.
I think that it's
find out
most obvious because they show the flashback and they don't show his face, and I'm like, yeah, Ryan Reynolds is dead. But yeah. Besides that, sorry, I just remembered when it clicked.
No, I know, because we're just spending so much time on Ryan Reynolds.
I don't know his character's name. The dad.
Besides the revelation,
it was an okay movie. I think it's definitely for the kids. It's a family movie. Yeah. I'm not a huge Pokemon fan.
No, me neither.
I mean, I enjoyed seeing all the Pokemon. I feel like a lot of them were just in the background though. Like, I feel like there could have been a few more Pokemon that were like in the spotlight.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. They definitely were more of an accessory than an actual integral part of the movie.
So. And we all know in these kinds of movies, when you have like creatures or aliens or something, and you focus mainly on the humans, that's always a problem.
Oh, always.
But they did show a decent amount of Pokemon, I think. So it was, I don't know. Look, like I said, I was happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, but I wouldn't say that the movie was necessarily brimming with interesting human characters.
Well,
I mean, the villain was pretty.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem. Yeah, it's the humans aren't that interesting. Always in these movies as well. That seems to be the problem.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I mean, there's another movie on my list we'll get to, but it suffers from the same problem where the human characters are just very throwaway. I mean, don't get me wrong, Justice Smith, I believe that's the actor who played him, and I remember his name because it's an odd name, but I remember that he was okay, the son trying to figure out what happened to his dad. I thought there was no issues with him and the chemistry he shared with Ryan Reynolds and Pikachu. There was nothing wrong with that. I thought they were funny and they had their moments.
Yep, and then you got the girl character, forced love interest, who's just thrown in there, and you're like, yeah, they're friends, and then for some reason they fall in love, and it doesn't really make any sense. But yeah.
Yep, doesn't make any sense at all. Yep.
It's very,
pretty much
very forced.
Yeah, it's it's just another. As you say, it's a kids' movie, so obviously we're also trying to recollect these films and this film in particular, and the fact that we're not able to give you guys full information about it or even tell you how interesting it was pretty much points to the fact that it wasn't interesting at all in terms of the character relationships. Not to the film, but because
clearly it's quite forgettable, and like I'm not really interested in watching it again, to be honest. But there's definitely something there for Pokemon fans, and yeah, if you just it's an enjoyable film, I think.
yeah, it's still like, I mean, if we're going to go by our traditional scoring, I mean, I'd still probably give it something like a 3 out of 5. So I mean, it's above average. It's slightly above average, but it's nothing more than that. It's definitely an indicator, though, of what the movie season would turn out to be, though, because there was definitely a lot of films, at least in my opinion, that kind of ended up being in this area of like they're just above average, to good. They're not amazing films, but I think Pokemon sort of started that off. Obviously, before that was Avengers, but but definitely for the season we're talking about, yeah.
I also give it a 3 out of 5, and you know what? Think about it. There's 3 starter Pokemon, so think about that. Let that sink in.
Okay. I don't know why we needed to make that reference, but anyway, moving on. So away from Pokemon Detective Pikachu, the next movie on our lists is different. So, Nathan, what's the movie you have?
No, you go
first.
Please, come on, mate. I started this one. Your turn.
Jeez.
You're up.
Oh, okay, fine. I'll go next. All right. So the next movie I have is Brightburn. Now, if people remember, Brightburn is the superhero horror film that was basically marketed as a Superman Elseworld story, essentially where the scenario was presented to us that Superman was evil and obviously he was a kid and he just basically went around killing people. And that's pretty much the movie, and that's what it went for. Overall, I felt that the movie, in terms of its horror elements, had moments. Like moments of genuine scares, genuine creepy, like, obviously satanic elements. And then the drama of the film, I believe to be the highlight of the movie. The family dynamic that was going on was really, really interesting and quite good. Up until, I would say, the midpoint of the movie, where the film unfortunately kind of falls into the cliche territory of people just being oblivious to the fact that this kid obviously is a serial killer, and they're just going to just go on with it. And if you are wondering, yes, the kid is a serial killer. He does have psychotic tendencies, and he's writing in this book throughout the movie, and he's, obviously very, very disturbed, but that's kind of what the film's going for. At one point, I hoped they would go for something a little more like the ship that he landed in, which they show, I guess, in the first 10, 20 minutes, because it controls him for like a second. Like he feels, I wouldn't say obligated, but he's almost feels the urge to go out and have a look at the ship and touch it and stuff like that, which is like hidden in the barn. So it's very Superman-like, obviously, just by me describing it. But I thought that the ship almost would be controlling him and he'd be kind of like a weapon, but it just turned out that the kid was nuts. And that was all well and good. It's just the fact that they just didn't execute it very well. There was no motivation for why he was crazy. He just was crazy. There's no motivation for why his mum was just very overprotective of him, besides the fact that she was his mum, even though she knew at that point that this kid was killing people. So, I mean, if you're looking for something different in the realm of horror, I mean, I definitely recommend it. It is a very different movie, but with all that being said, it still follows the same cliches. So it's kind of this double-edged sword almost, but I would still give it a 3.5 out of 5, which is still, a pretty good score in my opinion. It's just one of those things where the promise is great. It just suffers from the same issues you've seen in almost every other horror movie these days, and that's a problem for me. Like, it's annoying. It's just annoying. Obviously, I know you haven't seen it.
No, but I definitely want to check it out though, and I mean, from you describing it, just kind of still makes me want to like see it.
Yeah, I think that like home release, it might be better. I just think that there are times where you obviously question it and you go, well, why did you make this choice? Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you do this? How come he's doing this in this moment? This just seems weird. Like, there are lots of those moments in this film, particularly in the second and third act, because the first act for me was actually just fantastic. I didn't have any issues. The build-up was great. It's just the execution towards the end got a bit sloppy and ending wasn't to my liking. But obviously, if I'm still giving something a 3.5 out of 5, the movie still exceeded my expectations and excels in quite a few areas. I just think that it was more the broken promise that kind of bummed me out a little bit. I think the movie could have been a lot better than what it was, but that doesn't mean it wasn't good. Anyway, your movie,
Yep.
which I wanted to go see, but didn't.
Yeah, we I don't know. Wait, Reuploaded and Aladdin came out around the same time, right? Weren't we gonna like?
Same day.
We were supposed to go to the same movie, but then somehow we ended up not seeing the same movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
That did happen. All right. Well, yeah. Look, it's it has a rough start. It definitely has a rough start. Will Smith surprisingly saves this movie. When up until the point he gets out into it, the acting is just not great. Like, I don't know. I feel like the actors portraying Aladdin and Jasmine, they really fell short for me. The songs were great and everything, but yeah, just the acting just was a bit. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think they've really been in much other films, and it really shows. Yeah, and Will Smith, people were being really negative towards him playing the genie, but he really just done his own thing with it, and it's really good. And he adds things to the songs and sings them a bit differently. And yeah, I really enjoyed his parts in the movie. And once he comes into it, even his chemistry with Aladdin makes Aladdin a lot more likable as well. But yeah, just I don't know, just the whole start bit just was a bit weird, and I don't know, I was a bit bored. And I don't know, I just, again, with these live action remakes, it's why not just watch the animated one? Because I honestly think the animated one is just still 10 times better than this. Yeah, I don't know. Were you about to say something? I heard you breathe.
No, I was just gonna say that we're gonna get into the Lion King later on, just to let people know, and I think we're probably gonna have another discussion there about the need for these live action remakes, which we've already talked about in a previous podcast. But yeah, I mean, I had heard similar things about Aladdin, particularly at the beginning of the film, and how people's criticisms of Will Smith kind of ended up getting turned on their head because he ended up being the best part of the movie, from what I heard anyway, and from what you're saying, it seems that way. So it's interesting to see that these elements that we criticize end up being the things that save these films.
Yeah, well, I always thought even from the trailer, Aladdin, just felt off to me. I mean, they didn't show much, and yeah, I don't know, people are just mainly mad at the CGI, I think, of the genie, which, in most of the movie he's human form, I think, for that reason, but you just kind of overlook the parts where he's the big blue genie. I don't know, just whatever. I think it's meant to look cartoony, and I'm okay with it. And yeah, like I said, all his songs sound really good. Yeah, so I was happy with it, but again, I don't know, I'd rather just watch the animated one. I'll probably give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's worth seeing if you're a fan of the original, or Disney in general. Yeah.
Well, that seems to be the consensus at the moment for our listeners out there. Is the summer movie box office, or just summer movie season in general, it's just been very okay, look, good to all right, you know what I mean?
But the thing with the Disney ones are they're just obvious cash grabs. There's no, I don't know, there's just not a lot of love going in these movies. They're just, I don't know, they're really just copy and paste off the cartoon. obviously just changing like small things.
We're on the topic. Did you want to talk about Lion King?
I mean, it's probably a smooth transition, right?
Yeah. All right. Let's get into it. Okay. So both of us, just to let everybody know, have seen The Lion King, and just bouncing off of what we just talked about, I felt very similarly about this movie. I felt that it was good, but just good.
Yeah.
It's hard. The special effects are amazing, but they're also jarring. And what I mean by that is that I found that the voice work in the film,
it doesn't match the facial expressions.
Yeah, exactly. The emotion that these actors were providing just wasn't being expressed on these animals. And I guess they were going for the, Animal Planet, David Attenborough kind of... Obviously, it's photorealism, so they're trying to make it look as real as possible. But in doing so, you lose a lot of the charm. You lose a lot of that playfulness, cartoonishness. It kind of ends up being very... It's like, I'm meant to believe this is real, but it's so real that it just doesn't look like anyone's emoting. The most obvious examples, I think, have been pointed towards Mufasa's death and Simba's reaction. Probably the one that I noticed the most when the movie started was Zazu. Just John Oliver playing Zazu and just talking. Like, you're seeing this bird, obviously with a British accent, and obviously being extravagant and playful and authoritarian, and you're just seeing this mouth go up and down.
Yeah, just constantly. Like the beak just goes up and down and the eyes blink really fast. It's like it's putting so much effort into the voice work and it's just not being portrayed in the animation. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and again, they just didn't do anything different. It's just like what is like? Why wouldn't you just watch the animated one? Do you know they didn't add anything here? It's just
It's disappointing. It's disappointing to say the least, because I think that you can definitely praise the movie on a technical level, and as I said before, the CGI is amazing. Like you can say that this movie is a beautiful film, and I'm not going to sit there and disagree with you, with anyone for that matter. I just think that certain choices were made that made me ponder whether or not this movie needed to exist in the first place, and knowing that it was made just for the sake of garnering a little bit of money, it's just sort of like, really, this is the path you want to go down? Like, it makes me frustrated in a way where I'm like, I look at the original and I know that there are issues with that movie. I think that Scar could use further development. I think that the portion of the movie where Simba is an adult could have been done far better. And in fact, I did actually enjoy the part where Simba was an adult in this movie more than the part where Simba was younger, because of the fact that in the original, you obviously had a lion cub who expressed joy and sadness and all these emotions, and you had a significant amount of time with that younger character. Whereas in this one, I mean, you do, but you don't see the same level of emotion. But going back to my point, that the original has issues that could have been fixed, I felt that this was the perfect opportunity to do so. And unfortunately, it didn't. And a lot of the lines from the original were just recycled. And
yeah, even some of the same jokes. I mean, there were some new jokes, and it's a pretty funny movie. Like, there's some good jokes in there. But yeah, they just just repeat lines and jokes from the original, and it just feels really cheap when they do that. Yeah, and I agree. We spoke about it in our Disney episode. Like, do we need these live action remakes? We spoke about like what they could do in this live action adaptation of The Lion King, how they could improve on them, what they could change and do differently. And yeah, they just did none of like anything we discussed would be good. Like the stuff you went over, they just didn't do anything new. And I don't know. I feel like they should have taken a bigger risk and just done something different.
Yeah, it makes me worried because, obviously the Mulan trailer came out around the time that the movie was released, and, Mulan looks like it could be good as well. But again, it's so up in the air now. Like, it's one of those things where I don't know if these movies are going to be good. I don't know if these movies are going to be bad because the reception to Dumbo, and obviously your opinion of it, wasn't stellar, and Aladdin wasn't stellar, and Lion King wasn't stellar, and it seems that the best film we've gotten thus far.
I think Dumbo was probably the weakest one this year for me. I enjoyed Aladdin and Lion King a lot more. I probably enjoyed Aladdin the most, I think.
Yeah.
Well, this is probably on par with it. I'll probably give this a 3.5 out of 5 as well. I mean, I think mainly on a technical level, right? And it's just like visually, it's stunning. Yeah, so you can go watch this movie for the visuals alone, and you can enjoy it. And all the songs sound really good. Again, I like to talk about the music element in the film. All the new versions of songs, obviously different people singing them, the new actors, and they all sounded good. Especially Donald Glover was fantastic, but he's underused because he's not in until Simba's an adult. But
yep, and then again, the adult stuff isn't in the movie for that long.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought even maybe they could have added another song in there. Even would have been nice to give Donald Glover some more vocal use.
I was just going to talk before about more.
Oh well, I just want to mention though, Beyonce. I feel like she was a bit extra. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I feel like she added a bit much.
You hit the nail right on the head because I was gonna mention more Disney live action stuff. I was just trying to butt in and talk about that, but the stuff you're talking about with Beyonce was something I really wanted to bring up because my mind at the moment is putting the movie at about a 3 out of 5. But when Beyonce came on screen, obviously not her, but when you saw Nala, the adult Nala, come on screen, it was so obvious that it was Beyonce. It was so normally when you'd think, it's an actor, perhaps they'll do some sort of transformative performance and they'll break their shell and there'll be somebody else.
Nah, it was just Beyonce.
It was just Beyonce, and it was so on the nose.
And just when she sings the songs, she adds all her vocalizing. It just doesn't fit. It's too much.
Yeah, you can tell again. It's just Disney going, give us that money, and it's like cha-ching, cha-ching, and again.
Yeah, and she even had her own song. I mean, it only played in the background, and unlike in Aladdin, Jasmine had her own song, which they used twice in the movie, and that was probably the worst part of the movie. Beyonce does have a new single for this movie, and it just played in the background while they were running, which is good. I'm glad it wasn't a whole scene. But yeah, Donald Glover did such a fantastic job. I mean, that's not really fair though, because he's actually a good actor.
I thought he was really good.
Compared to Beyonce, he was a lot more seamless transition to the adult version of the character.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think they had they nailed the younger and older version of Simba, where there was this really great synergy between the two of them. And I just think the synergy between young Nala and adult Nala, just wasn't there, because obviously when Beyonce showed up, you just knew it was Beyonce. So it was a bit that's kind of a bit of a disappointment.
It makes it just feel more of a cash grab, because people just go in for Beyonce to see this movie. You just know her fans are filling the cinemas.
Yeah, that's why we keep bringing it up. For those listeners out there, we keep bringing it up because the movie just feels like a cash grab. That's the way we can summarize this movie. It's just money. It's all it is, money.
That's what we're criticizing here, I think, the most. It's just so cash grabby, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like you're watching something bad. It's like the whole point. You're not watching something bad, but you're just watching something that you've seen before, and you could go and watch the original version, and it would be better. So that's all I can say about it, is just go watch the other one.
Although Keegan and Eric Andre did a really good job as the hyenas. I like that. They were good.
Yeah, but, the only issue was that they weren't the hyenas. Does it make sense? It was a weird choice. They weren't the hyenas from the original movie. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like, I understand that when the movie's going for this level of... I guess you could say, I don't know, I was going to say an homage, but when it's trying to emulate, that's what I'm looking for, when it's trying to emulate the original so much, and yet also be incredibly beautiful in its photorealistic CGI, it somehow changed the hyenas, who weren't this trio of like stupid and silly characters, but in fact were just two guys who had these conversations that kind of felt to me a little bit out of place. Like, they were funny, but they were out of place from the rest of the movie. Like, it felt like two ordinary guys having a conversation, and then the female hyena, who in this case ends up being the leader of the hyenas, just they made into like some sort of queen chick. And it was almost like it just didn't make sense. Like, I didn't know why they went down that path with the hyenas.
Yeah, they weren't as goofy as they are in the cartoon. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, again, it must be them thinking, oh, we have to make it more realistic. But it's like, well, if you're doing that, then why are you keeping these characters the same and yet you're changing these characters? It's these things that make you wonder, again, whether or not this movie needed to happen.
Well, one part I knew was going to be like, I don't know what calmed down, I suppose, from the animated one was the I Just Can't Wait to Be King song. Because in that one, it's like so colourful, and then like all the animals like stack up into like a pile. I don't know if you remember. But I was thinking first kind of like, how are they going to do that? Like, they're not going to do that. It's just going to be them just like running and singing. And that's exactly what it was, you know? It was just like, you watch the anime one and it's like a really like cool segment of the movie, and this is just like they're running in water, and the animals are there, but they're just standing there singing. They're not like, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely.
It's funny how making it look so realistic makes it so lifeless. Do you know, like, it's kind of ironic. Yeah, it's ironic, really.
It's devoid of life, and the only reason why it's devoid of life is that because of the fact that the voices that these actors are providing are not matching up with the animals that you're seeing on screen. And that's the biggest issue with the film, really. But if we're, I think, moving on from The Lion King...
we can move on to the next Disney movie.
What's the next Disney movie we got on here? Was it Toy Story?
Yeah, Toy Story 4. Yeah.
Oh, did we want to move into the individual ones we got, or do you want to leave them to last?
No. Okay, we'll do that first, because, you know, when we talk about the individual ones, it's a bit more messy, so let's get that out of the way.
Yeah, alright, we'll get through the messiness first. Alright, so I'll do Godzilla first. Okay, so I saw Godzilla, King of Monsters, or King of the Monsters. The critics destroyed this film. I think they did. And rightly so. The humans are trash. I'm just going to say that right away. I do not remember a single person in it. 11 from Stranger Things is in this movie, but good for her, because the humans are just boring. But I didn't care. The monsters were awesome. The special effects were fantastic, and the fight scenes just looked amazing. This was the perfect movie to see in the cinema. I would have seen it in IMAX, saw it in IMAX, sorry, if I could, because the fight between Godzilla and King Ghidorah and Rodan and seeing Mothra and just those kinds of fights was just amazing. Like I've never seen that kind of big monster fighting besides something like Pacific Rim, but then again you've got giant mechs versus giant monsters, and this time you're actually seeing the most famous movie monsters of all time going at it, and yeah, it was fantastic. I couldn't believe it. Like, some of the fight scenes were just ridiculous, but they were silly, and the script was silly, and it was dumb, but who hell cares? At one point, Godzilla was hibernating in some hole under the sea where I didn't even know, I want to say Aztecs, but they weren't, because they were like, oh, look, it's Mesopotamian, it's Aztec, it's all these ancient civilizations, it's before all of that. They worshipped Godzilla. I was like, who cares? Just fight something. And when they did, it looked awesome.
Yeah, I don't understand why the scripts always fall so short in these movies. Why the human characters so just... Well, because, you know what? They're thinking like you're thinking. They're like, who cares? Everyone's just coming for the monsters, so let's just write this shitty script and just... You know, who cares? Everyone's just going to like the fights anyways. Maybe that's their...
Well, that's my point. I never understand this. It's like, it's the exact reason why the Planet of the Apes movies succeeded is because of the fact that they were about the apes. And yes, the human characters were obviously there, but you don't think about, oh, I remember that human character in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. You don't remember anybody but Caesar and like Koba And okay, I'm failing to remember other ape names, but you remember the apes. That's the point I'm getting at. And I think that, I've talked about the fact that Transformers needs to go down that route, and I think that definitely Godzilla needs to go down that route. They just need to get rid of the humans. Just throw them away.
Yeah, but it's hard because in Godzilla, like, the monsters don't talk and they don't communicate, In Transformers, it's different because you could just have a movie with just the Transformers because they talk and do things. If they're you can't just have monsters fighting for, an hour and 40 minutes. Cause
I understand that.
It's expensive.
I do. But I think the reason why this frustrates me more is because in the original Godzilla movie, or at least the reboot they did, I think it came out in like 2014, Bryan Cranston's character, before he was, spoiler alert, killed, was actually really interesting because of the fact that he was there, I believe, when Godzilla first appeared, or when there was a nuclear meltdown I don't think it was Hiroshima or Nagasaki, but it was definitely in Japan. He was working there as a scientist, and obviously there was this big event that occurred, and you try to sympathize with this guy because he lost his wife, and his family was kind of torn apart by the events that took place, and now he's spending his whole time in the remnants of this Japanese city trying to figure out basically who Godzilla is and what led to his wife's murder. And I think that at least has a bit more resonance than some of the human characters in this most recent iteration of the franchise, because they're just so like, oh, look, we're interested in monsters, or, I'm a person who studies animals and I've been tasked with trying to hunt down Mothra or Godzilla or something like that. And you're like, oh, who cares, man? It's like, I don't care about you. Like, they could easily just take advantage of the wealth of Japanese actors we have out there and use some of them. You know what I mean? If Godzilla originates from Japan, utilize that market to your advantage and try and have more Japanese actors. At least that way it will feel more unique. You know what I mean? Having actual, Japanese actors speak Japanese rather than just having some people walk out and talk about some bullshit you don't care about. But look, with all that being said, Godzilla was a fun movie where you just turned your brain off, much like DC's Aquaman. Visually, it looked fantastic. Just turn your brain off, watch it, and you'll have a great time. So for me, it was easily like, I can't put my finger on it, but it's somewhere between a 3. I mean, I could go as far as a 3.5, but I'll probably just stick with a 3. It's a 3 at least, out of 5. But anyway, your movie, your film.
Yep. Well, only recently, not in cinemas, only recently I watched Us. Which, I don't know. I mean, I was a huge fan of Get Out. I thought it was a really good movie. And I planned to go see Us in cinemas, but I don't remember what happened, but I never got around to it.
And it was pre-movie season, it was American summer movie season, just so our listeners know. It was like March.
It's alright.
Anyway.
I watched it only recently, so it still counts. Okay. So you've seen Get Out, yeah?
Yes, I've seen Get Out.
Okay. This falls short, I think. Other people I've spoken to agree with me that it's good. It's a really good concept. The film has a really good concept. Visually, it's really interesting and great. But, just the script, or I don't know, the execution of the story falls a bit flat. It has I don't want to spoil it too much, but it has, because since you haven't seen it, don't care about everyone else. It tries really hard for this big twist at the end. Like, it's already like a bit twisty, and then it's like, oh, here's an even bigger twist, and it doesn't really add up. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So, that's kind of disappointing. The big twist at the ending was pretty disappointing. I don't think it was even necessary. Just, it felt like it was trying to be really dramatic. But, in terms, the movie just didn't play out how I expected, which I guess isn't a bad thing. But, so, I don't know.
Well, the first film was, talking about Get Out, it was definitely thematic movie with definitely a lot of undertones. From what I heard about Us, it was more of a straightforward horror film.
Yeah, it's
Um,
it's a thriller. They're basically being hunted down by clones of themselves, I guess. Yeah, and they wear red jumpsuits and wear one leather glove and use scissors as weapons, which I don't really understand why, but that's just what they do. It looks cool, I guess. I mean, visually, it's like really cool, right? It's these golden scissors. I don't know. It's just a thing that they do. Um, One thing I really enjoyed about the film was Tim Heidecker's in it because he's one of my favorite comedians, so it's good that he was in it a lot. He was pretty funny in it. Yeah, what else? What else is good about it? It's pretty freaky. Sorry, I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's pretty freaky. The way they like run and move, they like move really like quickly. And it's kind of spooky, and they got like wide eyes, and they're just like really freaking creepy. And yeah, there's just like I said, I don't want to spoil it too much, but they're there for a reason. It's kind of a revenge story. I guess this clone wants revenge on the other clone, and somehow, I don't know. Anyways,
I'm sold.
It's weird.
I was already confused.
It's weird. What were you gonna say?
I'm just saying I'm already sold because I'm just confused by it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. And Jordan Peele is a fantastic writer and director. I hope he just keeps making movies because, just because this one fell a bit short, who knows? The next one might be better than Get Out. Like, how do you know, right? You just got to see where it goes. And yeah,
well, at least he's pushing the envelope,
Yeah, right. He's testing it, and like the fact that this is just an original concept, like he just wrote and directed this, it's great. Like, it's it's really unique concept, right? It's done quite well, but yeah, just some things are executed poorly, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess it's a bit confusing at times too, what exactly is going on, and not everything's explained in the end. And yeah, it just really tries hard with this plot twist ending. But it's I'd say check it out, and Get Out as well if you haven't seen it. They're both really good films. Yeah, and I'm excited to see what it does next. I'll give it probably give it a 3.5 as well out of 5. Yeah, it's worth seeing.
Sounds right. I'll give it a look myself. Alrighty, now we're probably going to move on to our last film. And thankfully, once again, both of us have seen it. So if any listeners out there have felt that it's a bit sloppy, now at least we can try and be a little bit less sloppy. But
I'm sorry, I struggle when it's just like me on my own talking about.
Yeah, I'm the same. Don't stress. We both do it. But anyway, come on. Here we go. Toy Story 4. All right. So, oh my God, we can talk about a really good movie finally. All right. So, I think everyone was a bit trepidatious about going into this film, knowing, of course, that it too seemed like a cash grab. Why are we getting a fourth film? We don't need a fourth film. The trilogy is perfect. Well, people say it's perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect. But anyway, the big question is, how good is this movie? And I think it's pretty safe to say from what I've said, I think what Nathan said, that this movie is pretty freaking good. At least for me. I mean, I'm not going to, I'm already just going to go right out and say it, but I'm not going to say it's a 5. But it's definitely, I've got it here as a 4.5. So when I'm giving it a 4.5, I think it's that good. I think it's that damn good. It's no Toy Story 1, it's no Toy Story 2 or 3. But overall, I just found the effects to be great. I found the performances to be great. I found the new additions to be great. I found the twist with the villain, or at least not the twist, but what they decided to do with the villain at the end of the film to be just different and unique. And it turned what was a villain into kind of a likable character. And I think that comparisons can definitely be drawn with this film to the second installment in the franchise, and I would completely understand. But I think what this movie succeeds at is proving that perhaps there was a need for a fourth film after all. I don't know what you thought, but that's how I felt anyway.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a beautiful film, both visually and emotionally. Yeah, they did a great job. I mean, it's Pixar, so you always know it's going to be top-notch animation. They're the best. They're always going to be the best, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and they've failed to tell good sequels. I mean, Finding Dory fell short. Incredibles 2 was pretty crap.
Oh, I mean, I didn't hate Incredibles 2. I still thought it was good, but...
It's extremely disappointing. Come on, it is.
Okay, all right. I'll give you some butter, but yeah, I thought this was good, yeah.
Yeah, I think this was necessary, because I rewatched the trilogy after I saw the fourth one again. And yeah, the third one, look, it does wrap things up nicely with Andy passing down the toys. But it's good to see like what happens next, you know. And this is Woody's story. This one, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's where my criticism.
Given an ending to Woody's story because he's always been the main character, because you know he's there before Buzz is there, so he's always been like the main character, right?
Yeah,
and yeah, I think it's good to see that what he ends up doing. It's like it's his character development, right? It's his story come full circle.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with you. I just think that was
because he's always been obsessed with having an owner, right? And now that's what comes full circle. Yeah, he has to make the choice. Does he want to, like, you know, keep being someone's toy forever, or does he want to go do whatever the hell a toy does on their own? I suppose.
Yeah, well, I just think the criticism that I was getting at before was just the fact that I felt that there probably needed to be just a little bit more stuff between Buzz and Woody and the other toys. And by other toys, I'm not referring to Key and Peele as the plushies or Keanu Reeves as Duke Kaboom, but you know, Jesse and Bullseye and Mr. Potato Head and Rex and Ham. The toys we know, like Slinky from the other
They
ones.
definitely get benched. They get benched pretty hard in this movie.
Yeah, and that's just where it falls just a little bit short for me. It's just with those characters.
They got a bit quicksilvered, you could say.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
But
where they're barely in the movie. It is disappointing because they're all, you know, got really like great talents, voice in them, and they're all good characters.
Well, they're all some of my favorite things about the original trilogy. Like, I love Rex, and I love the sassiness of Ham and Mr. Potato Head. They're just really funny, grumpy characters. You know what I mean?
Like, at the end of the day, I think it's just they wanted to tell a certain story, right? And
yeah,
it's hard to fit along to, especially a kids movie. You can't have as long a runtime as like a usual movie, yeah. So they got to do what they can with the time they have, and obviously introducing like Forky, you know, he's a main character too, and it's about like what a toy is, and and so I don't know. I feel like you just kind of have to forgive it. They did the best they could.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not...
They wanted to tell a different story.
You know, I'm not going to go as far as to grill it or say that it's bad because of that, you know, because they still, as you say, they tell the story that they want to tell. I guess that all that I have to say is that I wish that they utilized all the characters at their disposal. Do you know what I mean? Rather than put some that we've come to love just off to the side. And obviously I wanted to see just a bit more Woody and Buzz, you know what I mean? Because don't get me wrong, I like Bo Peep in this movie, and I'm glad they brought her back and did something different with her. She does teeter on that line at times between being, I guess, a little bit too political, if you know what I mean, and obviously feeling like a real character. And what, of course, I mean by that is that obviously they, you know, take their time and have their moments where they might try to talk about Woody's what do you call it? I'm just trying to say I can't even say the word. But
what?
But Woody's problems, Woody's issues. You know what I'm talking about? Like Woody's things that Woody is not great at. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And they point a finger at that sometimes. But I think that that's not exactly what Bo Peep's character is entirely for. I just wish I saw more of Woody and Buzz, because that's the relationship that we've grown to love throughout the Toy Story movies. It's exactly what made the first Toy Story so great. It's exactly what made the second one so hard to watch, because you obviously want to see Buzz find Woody. And then in the third one, you got a very similar situation. And I think that in this movie, they obviously pay off. They have that payoff at the end of the movie with the, spoiler alert, goodbyes. I'll say that at least. But I think that I just would have appreciated a little bit more time with the two of them together.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I mean, he comes and helps him towards the end. And there's a little bit of that Buzz and Woody team action in the... Wait, he's there, right? When they trying to save Forky.
Yes, he is there. Yeah,
right.
Buddy Buzz is
okay.
there. Yeah.
Good. I was
we're so good, listeners. We're so good, guys. Obviously, we've been, rehearsing this well in time. Jesus.
I was just making sure he was there. I don't want to make a fool of myself, right? Yeah. Anyway, so you get a bit of it, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. But yeah, overall, it was just it was a really emotional movie, and the story was just told really well.
So, as I said at the start, for me, it was still a 4.5. Sorry. Out of 5. Just missed the mark for me, but I thought it was really good. It was really good, I would really put it up there. So far it's been my second, I guess you could say, favourite movie of the year. Behind Avengers, obviously, but but I really enjoyed it.
Alright, I'd probably give it a 4. I think you enjoyed it a bit more than I did, which is weird because you seem to have more to complain about it.
Yeah, that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't go above a 4.
Alright, well, I don't think we've got any more films left on our lists. I think that's it.
No.
Alright, all good then. Alrighty, guys, well, hopefully you'll hear a bit more from us now. We'll try to do our best to keep you guys updated and throw out a few more of these podcasts. But anyway, that's all from us. We'll catch us later.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Laters, guys.